Welcome to Astrology Unpacked. I'm Debra Clement, and today I'm going to talk about the place in the horoscope where money gets complicated, the eighth house. So in astrology, the eighth house rules other people's money. That includes money that belongs to someone or something else, but you benefit from it. So that includes unearned money, shared finances, and debt. So let's get clear about what that really means. Unearned money is money that you receive, but you don't earn. And that can be an inheritance, a lottery win, an insurance payout, a lawsuit settlement. It also includes corporate bonuses, severance packages, unemployment benefits, public assistance, spousal support, child support, grants, scholarships, and royalties from copyrights, licensing agreements, trademarks. But unearned money is not the focus of today's episode. The focus is on shared finances, money that you actively share with someone else, and debt. So let's talk about that. So shared finances include joint financial accounts that you share with someone else. It can be personal, it could be professional, but either way, you're commingling your resources, you're sharing this money, and that's where things can get complicated. Debt is also considered other people's money. If you take out a mortgage or you finance a car or you take a business loan, you're using the lender's money. Likewise, every time you use your credit card, the lender pays for that purchase, and then you pay the lender. And if you do pay your credit card in full every month, well, then your debt is temporary, but it's still debt. And so you can see this is very different from the second house. It's much more straightforward. The second house, it's the money you earn, it's the money you spend, it's the money you save. It's your money, it's your net worth. So what I want to do is take a quick trip around the zodiac and look at how the sign on the eighth house cusp describes a person's overall approach to these two particular eighth house matters. Now, of course, if I were analyzing someone's horoscope, or even if I just wanted to do a thorough analysis of their approach to eighth house matters, I wouldn't stop with the sign on the cusp. This is just the very first step in the analysis, but I do think you'll find it interesting. All right, so let's get started. If Aries is on the eighth house, the person's approach to shared finances tends to be very proactive. It is very hands-on, and they have no problem making decisions. To be honest, sometimes that can mean making unilateral decisions, or as they probably prefer to call them, executive decisions. There can be a bit of impulsiveness here, but the truth is, whether we're talking about a personal or a professional relationship, someone with Aries on the eighth house cusp may need to learn a little bit more about consensus. When it comes to debt, the person can be pretty cavalier about it. The credit is available, they'll use it. Oh, the credit line was just increased? Terrific. They'll use it now, and they'll worry about paying it back later. Now, if Taurus is on the eighth house, it's a completely different story. The person's approach is much more deliberate. Financial decisions tend to be practical, and they are never rushed. People with Taurus on the eighth tend to be cautious with shared finances. Not only do they want to build them up, but they also want to hold on to what's already there. And when it comes to debt, they're cautious there as well. They will use debt when it makes sense, such as buying a house or maybe making a major purchase, but they generally do not want to owe more than they have to. If Gemini is on the eighth house, the person's approach to shared finances tends to be pretty flexible. They're not stuck on one viewpoint. They'll listen to ideas, they'll consider different options, and if it makes sense, they're agreeable. But the truth is, Gemini on the 8th can have a bit of an easy come, easy go attitude towards money. So it's usually not going to be too tight fisted about how shared money is handled. And when it comes to debt, the person tends to be pretty unfazed by it and will use debt easily and truthfully may not give it much thought at all. In contrast, if Cancer is on the 8th house, the person is usually very security conscious. So when it comes to shared finances, it's very protective of them. And it's especially protective of what it considers to be their share of those shared finances. The reality is this person needs a nest egg. It's critical to their emotional security to know there's enough put away, not just for savings, but for emergencies, for retirement, and basically all of the other expenses of life that can come their way. They're also very wary of debt. They don't like it. They will generally try to avoid taking it on, and if they have to, they avoid taking on more than they need. When there is debt, they tend to worry about it, and they want to get it paid off as soon as possible. If Leo is on the 8th house, the person's approach to shared finances is usually generous, especially in a personal relationship. Leo on the 8th can be quite happy to spend shared money on their partner. They'll also happily spend it on themselves as well. The view is that as long as the money is there, there's no reason not to enjoy it. Now, when it comes to debt, they generally don't lose any sleep over it. And it's not because their attitude is, who cares if I pay it off or not? It's because they're confident that they're going to do well enough to pay it all off. If Virgo is on the 8th house, the person's approach to shared finances can be meticulous, which is a good thing, but they can also tend to micromanage them. And by that, I mean spending decisions may need to be justified. Do we really need to spend that money? Yeah, we need a new car. But maybe if we can keep this one another year or so, we won't have to finance as much. Or wait, maybe the interest rates will go down. When it comes to debt, they tend to use it sparingly. They'll use debt when it makes sense, such as a mortgage, or if they have no other choice. But they prefer to avoid it. If Libra is on the 8th house, the person's approach to shared finances is usually very cooperative. And when it comes to decision making, they want to be consulted, and they also want consensus. Now, a potential problem here is that if the other person has a very strong personality and there's a disagreement, the person with Libra on the 8th may give in, honestly, just to keep the peace. Now, of course, that depends on the rest of the chart, but strong financial boundaries may be important when Libra is on the 8th. When it comes to debt, Libra on the 8th can be very comfortable using it as a lifestyle tool. And by that, I mean they won't hesitate to finance something they want now, but don't necessarily need, instead of having to wait until they have the means to pay for it. Now, that's not to imply that they're being irresponsible with debt. I'm just saying that they view it as a financial tool to get what they want sooner rather than later. If Scorpio is on the 8th house, sharing finances with another person is a true test of trust and loyalty. So the person's approach to shared finances tends to be guarded. They like to keep a close eye on them, and given the choice, they would prefer to make all of the financial decisions themselves without having to consult anyone. Now, when it comes to debt, this person will absolutely use it, but they'll use it strategically. If they want to start a business or they see an opportunity where borrowing makes financial sense, they won't hesitate, because the truth is they would rather use someone else's money than use their own. If Sagittarius is on the 8th house, the person tends to take an expansive approach to shared finances. And they're not controlling with it. They're usually more interested in what the money can do for them rather than holding on to it. It's more about, well, we've got this money. What can it make possible for us? Sagittarius on the 8th is also fairly at ease with debt. The attitude very often can be, hey, it's there, so let's take advantage of it. We'll figure it out later. There's this natural optimism that somehow the money will be there when it needs to get paid back. And while that attitude does make them very comfortable with the debt, it can also lead to them taking on more than perhaps they should. If Capricorn is on the 8th house, the person takes a very responsible approach to shared finances. They want to know where the money is going, what it's being used for, and whether everyone is holding up their end. Now, when it comes to debt, they generally avoid taking it on unnecessarily. They're not interested in owing money just because they can. A mortgage? That's fine. A car loan? Well, may be necessary. But once they take it on, they do see it as an obligation and they create a plan for paying it off. If Aquarius is on the 8th house, the person's approach to shared finances is that everyone gets a say in what happens with the money. And because they tend to be emotionally detached from money, they can discuss financial matters very objectively. Now, when it comes to debt, Aquarius tends to be pretty indifferent to it. If they have it, they deal with it. If Pisces is on the 8th house, the person tends to take an idealistic approach to shared finances. They can be very trusting, which, to be honest, can get them into trouble if they're involved with the wrong people. Having clear boundaries around shared money can be especially important if Pisces is on the 8th. Now, when it comes to debt, Pisces on the 8th can drift into it. And it's not necessarily because of reckless spending. It's more about all those little recurring charges that add up over time. Subscriptions, charitable contributions, the causes they genuinely believe in. Pisces on the 8th can be so focused on each individual expense that it loses sight of what they're all adding up to. So there you have it. We've made our way through all 12 signs, and as you can see, once money is shared or borrowed, there's more involved than how much you have or how much you owe. There are issues of trust, control, responsibility, and boundaries. And that's why I call the 8th house the place where money gets complicated. Thanks for listening, and I'll be back next time with more Astrology Unpacked.